Well, good afternoon. We have to protect people, and we have to protect their livelihoods. And the best way we can protect our economy is protecting people and keeping this virus contained. When this crisis hit, we had to act quickly. We provided unprecedented funding for healthcare. We invested $7.7 billion alone this year since launching Ontario's Action Plan in March. That's $7.7 billion to support our frontline healthcare heroes, increase hospital bed capacity, open schools safely, and protect our seniors. We're also there for Ontario businesses, families, and workers who felt the impacts of this terrible virus. We provided $11 billion to support people and jobs. We put $200 per child, $250 per child with special needs in the pockets of over 1.5 million Ontario families. 194,000 low-income seniors across Ontario saw their guaranteed annual income system payments doubled. We provided $176 million in savings by offering discounted off-peak electricity pricing 24/7 until May for families, small businesses, and farms. And we provided another $11 billion in supports for people and employers to keep more money in their pockets when they needed it most, including tax deferrals, WSIB premium reductions. We banned commercial evictions, and we worked with our federal partners to set up a commercial rent relief program for small businesses. Almost 64,000 small business tenants and their landlords have benefited from that program. Going forward, we will continue to build on that plan. We will focus on critical priorities while providing the flexibility to respond to any scenario. The upcoming fall budget will be our roadmap. It will guide us during this period of tremendous uncertainty. Minister Phillips will have some important news to share in a moment. But first, I want to share a message with Ontario's entrepreneurs, small business owners, and businesses of all sizes. We've been listening to you. We've heard you loud and clear. You need more supports. You need more help with fixed costs. That's why we committed up to $300 million to help small businesses in modified Stage 2 regions by covering fixed costs like property tax and hydro bills. But I can assure you, there's more help on the way. And as Premier, I'll make it clear, we're going to continue to do what's necessary to protect people's health and jobs while laying the foundation for a strong long-term care economic recovery. I just don't believe in taxes or increasing taxes as a solution to our problems. We have to be there for our businesses and the people who built them and put more money back into their pockets instead of the government's pockets. We have your backs. We will pull through this together. And when this is all over, we will continue to fire up our economic engine. We will bring more prosperity and more opportunity than ever before to every corner of this province, starting with the solid foundation of Ontario's Action Plan. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll hand it over to Minister Phillips.
Thank you, Premier. When the first wave of COVID-19 started back in March, Premier Ford made it clear that our government would do whatever it takes to protect the people of Ontario and support them through this challenging period. Nothing was more important then, and nothing is more important now. Back in mid-March, as the global health crisis took hold and a state of emergency was declared, it was clear that there was too much uncertainty to put forward a full multi-year budget as we had intended. But it was still important for our government that we remain transparent and accountable to our citizens. That is why Ontario, unique among governments in Canada, presented a one-year economic and fiscal update at the beginning of the pandemic. As we reported in the first quarter finances, this plan makes $30 billion available in response to COVID-19, and it is a model that has been followed by governments across Canada since then. Back on March 25th, we committed to putting forward a multi-year budget by November 15th, and we will keep that promise. On Thursday, November 5th, I will release the next phase of Ontario's Action Plan. It will be a 3-year budget that will build on our government's $30 billion response to COVID-19. We will get back on the traditional budget calendar with another multi-year budget update by the end of March 2021 that outlines a plan to return Ontario to a fiscally sustainable path. By putting forward a multi-year plan next week, Ontario will once again be one of the leaders among Canadian governments, and this is important. Because as any family or small business owner understands, having a financial plan is important, especially when things are uncertain. Now, to be very clear, a great deal of uncertainty remains today. The range in private sector economic forecasts, something that I watch closely as finance minister, is twice as wide today as during the 2008 global financial crisis, and 3 times as wide as in normal times. We will account for this by including 3 plausible economic scenarios in our outlook on November 5th. All of us have learned a great deal about life in a pandemic this year. It would be arrogant to ignore those lessons. We understand more about the virus than we did 8 months ago, and we know more about how people and economies will respond based on the experience of other jurisdictions as well as here at home. We know that surges in cases and even future waves are to be anticipated until we have a vaccine. And we know that people and employers will continue to need support until we are on the road to recovery. One thing we all have learned from this global pandemic is the value of humility, being confident enough to admit what we don't know, but bold enough to learn from our collective experience. Ontario's 2020 budget will look confidently to the future, but it will not presume that any of us have all of the answers. It will be informed by input from over 8,000 people, including employers, labor organizations, not-for-profits, religious and cultural organizations, and our partners in municipal government. It will also build on our successful collaborative relationship with our federal partners. Most importantly, it will make available every necessary resource to continue to protect people's health going forward, and it will expand the support our government has provided to those still facing financial hardship due to the pandemic, including families, workers, vulnerable people, seniors, and employers. Around the world, we can see that others are sharing a similar experience as a result of COVID-19. But it's here in Ontario that the people have shown a unique strength and resilience. The people of Ontario will continue to be there for each other, and we will continue to be there for them. Together, we navigated the first wave. All of us together must work to apply the lessons we learned to successfully navigate the second and beyond. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the phone line for questions. First question, please.
First question comes from Haley Cooper at News Talk 1010. Please go ahead.
Hi, Haley.
Thank you. Hi, Premier. You said on Friday that we would be expecting a decision on Halton and Durham regions today, as well as other regions of concern that were discussed over the weekend. So why wasn't that decision made today, and how much of an impact did that open letter from Halton region mayors asking for a targeted approach rather than a blanket approach play?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Haley. I'll address that. I had a phone call from Mayor Burton from Oakville. We have a great relationship. Matter of fact, we have great relationships with all 444 municipalities. I've been speaking to our local MPPs, and when Mayor Burton called me and said, hey, I don't think we're at that point. And this is unique, because when it came to Ottawa, when it came to Toronto, when it came to Peel, and it came to York, all the mayors agreed. In Halton, this is unique because we have none of the mayors agreeing. We have the regional chair not agreeing, have our MPPs not agreeing. So I suggested to write a letter. Write a letter, let your local chief medical officer be aware of how you feel and other mayors feel and our MPPs feel. I spoke to one of my great MPPs, Jane McKenna, and said, I encourage you to write the letter. Somehow, that got twisted around in words and certain local media outlet that we weren't together. Let me be very, very clear. You know, this province, all 444 municipalities, our entire caucus, the federal government, we're all working together. And do we agree on everything? Absolutely not. I've come out here numerous times and said, do we have really good caucus meetings that there's differing opinions in cabinet? Matter of fact, we do. We have a lot of people from one end to the other. We sometimes will go 4 hours on a cabinet or a caucus meeting, but make no mistake about it. We're all in this together. We're all working together. Our number one focus is obviously health and the safety of the people, but right beside that is the economy. There's no one that wants to get this economic engine going more than I do. And I'll give you a story. There's 3 areas. I always reach out to the municipalities because no one understands their municipalities better than the local mayor, MPPs, local councillors, local MPs than they do. They understand their area. Then we work side by side with them. We also reach out to businesses in the area. And the most important thing is I'm out there talking to them. I call it grassroots, talking to the people, and I'll give you a 1-minute story here. And this is about a tobacco business. And I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning it because it's a phenomenal business. It's called Crooked Q. Sam Pappas, I've been there numerous times. And this is a family that's been working their backs off. And I talk to them. I talk to them late at night and listen to them for 30 minutes. People always come up to me, Haley, and they always say, you must be under stress. You must be under pressure. That's nothing compared to listening to the stories of these business owners, no matter if it's a small boutique fitness company or a restaurant called Crooked Q, and I encourage you to go there and listen to Sam tell me about his stories. He's the only guy with a retractable roof that I know of in the entire city. Why can't he open up? I'm fighting for these small businesses. I understand small businesses. I understand what it takes to meet a payroll and how connected you get with your employees that are relying on you to get a paycheck. I get it. I want to get the economy going. I want to open up these restaurants. And, so it's all about the people. It's all about these restaurant owners and the small business owners. I've had to meet a payroll before we got into this. I understand what it is to look at a profit and loss statement and how you're going to pay the rent. So my objective is always to protect the health and safety, but get the businesses open. So as I spoke to the mayor, Mayor Burton, I encouraged him. I was the one who said, write the letter. Make no mistake about it, our party's united. Do we differ? 100%, but that's healthy. I encourage differing opinions. I've talked to our MPPs. I talked to Parm Gill. I talked to Jane McKenna. And they're 2 of the greatest MPPs I could ever ask for. They're incredible.
Follow-up?
Thank you. And my follow-up, so Premier, during the weekend when you were meeting with your Health Command table, at any point was there a recommendation made that Halton and Durham should be rolled back into a modified stage 2, and then these letters were written and the decision has been put on pause for the time being? Because during this entire pandemic, you've said that you have to listen to the doctors, you have to listen to the science, but now it sounds like politicians are somewhat having a say in what the decision is.
Well, elected officials have always had a say. Every single time we go back, roll back to stage 2, I've contacted all the mayors. I speak to them, and everyone was in consensus. But when they aren't, it's concerning to me. And a priority is to keep the economy going, protect the small businesses, but we also have to keep in mind the health and safety. I always say I got to listen to the docs. I always will, and the science. In saying that, I have to listen to the small business owners, the guys who are struggling, the guys and gals that are struggling out there trying to meet the payroll. And when after getting off, you don't think that weighs on someone's shoulders? I'm not worried about myself on pressure. I'm worried, you want pressure? Try to meet a payroll. Try to keep your business open. Try to pay a mortgage on your house when you aren't having any income or paying rent. That's pressure. I don't have any pressure compared to these business owners.
Next question.
Next question comes from Travis Danrash at Global News. Please go ahead.
Hi, Travis.
Hi there, Premier. It's kind of a broad question, but I think Ontarians are wondering if you can be clear about what the province's strategy is here. And are these shutdowns working, and can you provide evidence that they are, considering this weekend we had over 1,000 cases reported in a single day. And as I know that you're aware, that's the highest number since the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm. And thanks for the question, Travis. And before I pass it over to the minister, these are areas, I just don't wake up or get at nighttime, see the numbers and say, okay, we're in trouble. I check the ICU capacity in hospitals, the capacity in acute care beds, making sure our long-term care is being locked down, making sure that we're hiring more PSW. So there's a raft of things that I get briefed on every day, probably half a dozen times a day, and I'm being conservative, but measuring everything. On top of it, measuring the economic impact, measuring people's health, mental health, and depression, for example. It's not easy when you're trying to meet a payroll and you have no income coming in. But I'll pass it over to the minister. Thank you.
Well, we consider a consistent set of issues every time we are asked to make a decision about whether an area should be moved into a modified stage 2 or not. The first, of course, is going to be the level of cases, the number of new cases we're seeing. Then we also look at the ability of our public health system to be able to deal with that in order to do the testing, tracing, isolation, contact management. We also have to look at our hospital capacity, both in terms of intensive care beds and ventilators available. And then, of course, we consistently speak with the medical officers of health in the particular areas. So what we're seeing right now, since we've put 4 areas into a modified stage 2, is we're also seeing some of the impacts from Thanksgiving several weeks ago. So we've got that adding to the increase in community transmission, but we are also starting to see some of the numbers go down in some of the modified areas. But because of the impacts of Thanksgiving, we're not seeing that happen quite as quickly as we'd like to, but the numbers in some areas are starting to come down.
Follow-up?
Yes, Premier, I have a question from my colleague Mike Drouet at Global National. Are you seeing pushback from regions that you did not see before, and do you think the regions continue to have faith in the decisions being made by the province?
I feel confident. There's always been pushback on all sides, right from the get-go. Travis, we have caucus members, cabinet members on both sides. We have some cabinet caucus members that think, don't worry, everything's fine. We have other ones that may feel, okay, shut everything down. But we're going right down the middle of the road. We have to have a happy balance. And it's not easy to make sure that on one hand we keep businesses going. And I just want to give people hope. Last month, there was 168,000 new jobs. Out of that, over 50,000 manufacturing jobs. Matter of fact, and this is a shocking stat, we have more manufacturing jobs than we did prior COVID, with 50,000 new manufacturing jobs. But I give the credit to the people. They're out there being creative, being true entrepreneurs, starting up companies, starting PPE.
While much of the world stays home, Canada's fertilizer industry keeps working. To ensure the food we depend